the smartest film critic in the world, Cole Smithey.
Hi, this is Cole Smithey with ColeSmithy.com. In this week's episode, I'll be counting down my top 10 films for 2011. It was a fascinating year in cinema and gave us a wide variety of films that'll bring pleasure to audiences for many generations to come. Movies like David Cronenberg's A Dangerous Method and Steven Spielberg's The Adventures of Tintin and Martin Scorsese's Hugo, while they didn't make it into my list, they all deserve honorable mention. But right now, let's get down to the list. In my number 10 spot is a little-seen film called The Arbor that you should really seek out. Docudrama director Cleo Bernard approaches a dead British playwright's life of persecution and abuse via the lens of situations from her autobiographical plays. When Andrea Dunbar died in 1990 at age 29, she was enjoying some theatrical success. The filmmaker obtained candid audio interviews with Dunbar's surviving family members who still reside in the same impoverished Bradford estate housing where Dunbar lived. Using a technique called verbatim cinema, Bernard uses professional actors to lip-sync with interview audio so that the spectator receives the information in a strangely organic fashion. The Arbor is a groundbreaking cinematic achievement. At number 9 is Bellflower. The preteen boys of the 70s who played war in their backyards and pored over dirty magazines in their clubhouses are transmogrified into a pair of 21st century 20-something misfits in writer-director Evan Glodell's wild and woolly contemplation of apocalyptic America.
Oh, how do you know I won't end up hurting you?
I doubt it.
Woodrow, played by Glodell, and Aiden, played by Tyler Dawson, are a pair of best friends obsessed with building a flamethrower gun and a flame-spewing muscle car named Medusa after the name of their two-man gang, Mother Medusa. Evan Glodell has invented a bold vision of independent cinema that pisses down the throat of the mumblecore indie movement. Call it apocalypticore. Here is a movie that sears itself into your eyeballs and brain. At number 8 is Project Nim. James Marsh examines the 25-year chronicle of Nim Chimpsky, a research chimpanzee who was put through the mill in the service of science. Nim's origins trace back to early 1970s hippie Columbia University professor Herb Terrace. Terrace took the baby chimp away from his mother and attempted to train it to communicate through sign language. With access to a tremendous amount of archival footage of every state of Nim's life, Marsh intersperses stylistically staged interview segments with many of the participants. Project Nim is an in-depth documentary with far-reaching implications about modern culture. It's impossible not to be swept up in the fragmented story of a de facto child who is repeatedly abandoned by people who exploit him with both good and bad intentions.
The reality of it is it's not a doll, it's not a toy, it's not a human, it's a chimp.
At number 7 is Take Shelter.
Are you okay?
Apocalypse looms large in writer-director Jeff Nichols' intimate tale of social, mental, and economic duress. Curtis LaForge, played by Michael Shannon, is a construction worker living in rural Ohio with his wife Samantha, played by Jessica Chastain, and young hearing-impaired daughter Hannah. Curtis reads a worst-case scenario into foreboding cloud formations he sees. He also suffers from terrifying nightmares about a coming storm which cause him to wet the bed. Torn over whether his family's history of mental illness has made its way into his brain, his mother is schizophrenic, Curtis seeks out counseling. Take Shelter captures a macro-micro snapshot of America's post-9/11 zeitgeist at a moment when a decade of fear fatigue has left the country numb. When everyone is seeking shelter from economic, natural, and human-implemented disaster, no place is safe. At number 6 is The Skin I Live In. Pedro Almodovar proves himself an apt technician at sustaining suspense in the thriller genre. Returning to work with Almodovar for the first time in 20 years, Antonio Banderas brings his A-game to a deliciously diabolical role. Plastic surgeon Robert Ledgard, played by Banderas, is a mad scientist with plenty of method to his particular madness of creating an indestructible skin. His wife died in a car fire. His daughter committed suicide. He harbors vengeance. But why? The Skin I Live In is a haunting film that tips its hat to Alfred Hitchcock. There's a goodly dose of Georges Franju's 1960 French horror classic Eyes Without a Face. Elliptical time shifts tell the story in a disjointed fashion that makes you want to see the film twice even as you're watching it. There's mystery here to savor as you would any great piece of cinematic art. Pedro Almodovar has created a masterpiece. At number 5 is Moneyball. Director Bennett Miller does the improbable. You don't have to be a math nerd or a baseball fan to savor every minute of Miller's cinematic balancing act built on Billy Beane's aha season with the Oakland Athletics in 2002. Brad Pitt gives the performance of a lifetime as former big league player Billy Beane, who recognizes talent when he sees it, even if that talent is for crunching numbers. Only Pitt could make chewing tobacco look sanitary. Jonah Hill establishes himself as a dramatic actor of consequence as Peter Brand, a bean counter with an unconventional viewpoint about which baseball stats matter most. Together, Pitt and Hill are exquisite. If last year's Thinking Outside the Box movie The Social Network gave cynical insight to a social activity platform that is already approaching a crisis of identity, Moneyball has a more lasting quality. What's profoundly interesting is how the romanticism of baseball comes through via sidelong moments of deeply personal experience.
Text me the play-by-play.
Wait, what?
I don't watch the games.
At number 4 is The Artist. The Artist conjures a bygone era that reminds us why we love Hollywood. Director Michael Hazanavicius' wonderfully nuanced movie made a splash at Cannes and then became the critical darling of the 2011 New York Film Festival. Hazanavicius meticulously squeezes in an encyclopedic catalog of silent film conventions while staying true to the ideas behind them. The result is a movie that never feels forced or derivative. The movie is full of sweet little surprises. Between brilliantly executed performances, dance numbers, and an exquisitely told romantic story about loss and redemption, this flawlessly crafted film shimmers. Visually, it's astoundingly gorgeous. Equal parts drama, romance, spectacle, and comedy, The Artist is an instant classic. In my number 3 spot is Drive. Playing with a William Friedkin-like level of patient intensity, atmospheric style, and shocks of violence, Dutch director Nicolas Winding Refn creates his own 21st century dialectic of cinema. Drive is a film lover's dream. Hossein Amini's adaptation of James Salas's pulp novel provides Ryan Gosling with the kind of cool-blooded character actors would kill to portray. Known only as Driver, Gosling wears a trademark silver racing jacket with a big gold scorpion embroidered on the back.
That's why this driver's gotta go, Bernie. He's gotta go.
His curious fashion sense matches his singular motivation to drive fast. The moody techno soundtrack by Cliff Martinez is the hippest thing around. Sexy, violent, and stylized like you can't believe, Drive is a big screen movie that oozes charisma and pops with brutality. Yum. In my number 2 spot is Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy. Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy is more than a character study. It is an examination of a highly skilled occupation that demands such complete and utter commitment that all emotional response must be submerged to a point of permanent poker-faced resolve. No one can be trusted, and yet loyalty to the group is mandatory. A company party of spies where the agents pretend to let their hair down momentarily arrives as a key sequence for what it says about the way British spies of the period interacted. Every jovial smile conceals suspicion and secrets. Thomas Alfreden's flawless staging provides a fly-on-the-wall view that allows the audience to peek behind the character's well-defended shroud of secrecy to discover yet another one that hides beneath. The story is about how loyalty and integrity are enforced in a spy agency where such values add up to much more than a simple matter of life and death. They represent the safety and viability of an entire system of government.
For the weaknesses in one another.
My number one film for 2011 is Lars von Trier's Melancholia.
I'm afraid of that stupid planet. Dad said there was nothing to do. Then he's forgotten.
2011 was the year of apocalypse in cinema. The Tree of Life, Take Shelter, and Melancholia each offer differing visions of Earth's waning days. Lars von Trier evinces consolation for the end of planet Earth and all its evil inhabitants in the form of a colossal planet named Melancholia, which is traveling on an elliptical collision course. Von Trier's infamous Cannes Festival publicity stunt wasn't any more outrageous than anything that drips nightly from Bill O'Reilly's lips, but it got the filmmaker himself thrown out of the festival in a manner befitting an outlaw filmmaker. Had the jury at Cannes chosen von Trier's superior Melancholia over Terrence Malick's cluster bomb The Tree of Life, in spite of von Trier's persona non grata status, justice would have been served. As with all of von Trier's films, Melancholia will divide audiences. Atheist audiences can take special pleasure in von Trier's exquisitely uncompromising vision. After all, what's a beginning without an end? That does it for my list of top 10 films for 2011. I look forward to checking in with you again next year for my top 10 films of 2012. In the meantime, Happy New Year and visit colesmithy.com for more.
Thank you.